peace. Love, 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 love. Unity, 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 unity. Community, 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 community. Family, family, family. Peace, 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 peace. Unity, 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 unity. Love, 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 love. Community, 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 community. Family, 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 family. Tonight is December 31st, 2024, 8:21. I will be reading the book called Beat the Odds. And usually I don't read things on the computer. But tonight I am. Chapter 1, Foundation in Erie. I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania from 1988 to 2007, navigating a world of challenges, lessons, and love. Life in the Franklin Terrace projects and Harbor Homes, better known as the Holly, was far from glamorous, but it shaped me into the person I am today. These neighborhoods were tough, yet they fostered a sense of community, where bonds were built through the shared struggles and unspoken understandings. Family has always been my anchor. As the youngest, I was surrounded by love, support, and protection from my two older sisters, Tiffany and Autumn. They what they weren't just siblings. They were guardians in their own right. Tiffany, with warm and nurturing demeanor, always seemed to know when I needed guidance. She had the way of encouraging me to stay on the right path, often stepping in to ensure I didn't stray too far. Autumn, on the other hand, was fire and fearless. She wasn't afraid to go toe to toe with anyone if it meant protecting me. Don't get it twisted. Tiffany was the same, and I remember times when they confronted kids in the neighborhood, warning them to leave their little brother alone. They made sure I avoided so-called tough guys who lurked in the terrace, trying to put young boys into trouble. My sisters didn't just protect me physically, they also taught me resilience and how to stand firm in who I was. But being the youngest also meant grappling with loss early in my life. My baby brother Curtis passed away in 1990, leaving a void in our family that could never be truly filled. Though I was young, I felt sadness in the air, the unspoken grief that lingered. Losing Curtis made me cherish the family I had even more. That pain, as heavy as it was, pulled us closer together, solidified a bond rooted in love and survival. At the heart of our family was my mom, Carolyn. She was our rock, a woman with never give up spirit that inspired me to push through even the hardest times. She walked among, she walked amongst everywhere we needed to go, catching an MTA bus only when the distance was too far to bear. Whether it was cold winters or sweltering summers, my mom found a way to make sure we had what we needed. Her sacrifices didn't go unnoticed. She showed me what strength and determination looked like, and those lessons stayed with me even when life would later try to knock me down. Not far from us lived my grandmother, just 5 minutes up the street. Her home was a sanctuary, a place where I always felt safe and understood. She was always one phone call away, ready to step in whenever my mom or anyone else needed her. But it wasn't just her presence that mattered, it was her words. My grandmother had a way of speaking into life into you, even when you felt defeated. Everything happens for a reason, baby. She would say, life will break you down, but you have to get back up every time. You are stronger than you think. At the time, her words sounded like the advice grandmothers give. But as I grew older and faced my own battles, her voice became a lifeline. Franklin Terrace and the Holly was places where innocence and harsh realities collided. My friends and I found joy in simple things, playing games, riding bikes, and shooting hoops. Football and basketball were my favorites, and our neighbors became our stadiums and the courts. There weren't gangs in traditional sense, just a group of friends hanging out in different sections. It was a bond of survival and shared youth. We were looked out. We were looked out. We looked out for one another in ways we could. Life in the Franklin Terrace and the Holly wasn't always about the struggles, though. As a kid, we played all kinds of games and sports, um, football and basketball, and we spent countless afternoons perfecting our skills on makeshift courts and fields. Each section of the neighborhood had its own crews of friends, and while we weren't involved in, hold up, I'm sorry, the Franklin Terrace projects, now called the John E. R. Rand Garden Apartments, were more than just housing projects. They were credible of hardships and survival. Life there in the 1990s and in 2000 was often defined as a mixed community and struggle. For families like mine, it felt like the world had conspired to keep us trapped in a circle of poverty, crime, and systematic neglect. While the Boys and Girls Club provided a glimmer of hope for some, the weight of the environment made it hard to believe in better days. The terrace was a place where dreams could easily be crushed under harsh realities of survival. Crime, both from within and policing from outside, shape our daily lives. Walking to school or to the store, you can escape the tension, the silent understanding that you that you had to be tough to survive. For me, as a young boy, it felt like the walls of the terrace weren't just physical barriers; there were emotional ones, closing in and dimming the light of hope. We found moments of escape, playing sports like basketball and football in courtyards, but those moments were fleeting. These games were more than just recreation. They were just a way to bond with friends and temporarily forget the struggles surrounding us. Yet, even in those moments of joy, there was an underlying tension, the knowledge that we would soon return to the harsh of our reality. The pain just bought the pain wasn't just about the immediate struggles. It was it was the realization that so much of this was out of control. My family and neighbors were people trying to make the best of a broken system, one that seemed indifferent to the lives it held. To be a child in the terrace was to grow up too fast, to learn too early that the world could be unfair. The terrace wasn't just a place I lived, it was a place that taught me resilience. Though the lessons were hard, it shaped how I saw the world, a world that seemed to want to keep people like me and my family in a cycle of struggle. Even today, thinking back on those times brings a mixed emotions. Hurt for the struggles we endured and pride for surviving them. Those experiences have stayed with me, driving me to rise above and finding the meaning the pain we carried. The Franklin Terrace apartments were not just buildings, there was a world into themselves, a world fulfilled with contradictions. On one hand, there was a camaraderie among the residents, a sense of shared struggle that bonded families and the neighbors together. On the other hand, there was an undeniable pain that came with the environment, a feeling that odds were stacked against everyone who lived there. For me, the terrace was a place where every day felt like a test. The challenges came not just from the outside world, but also from the community itself. Police presence was a constant, and their interaction with us as kids was often heavy-handed. It seemed like they were more interested in catching us up in the system than protecting or guiding us. They messed up. They messed us before, during. They messed with us before, during, and after school, reinforcing the message that the world saw us as suspects before it saw us as kids. Excuse me. Despite this, we carved out moments of joy and freedom, playing sports like basketball and football in the courtyards. Uh, was was one of the few ways we could release our energy and feel like kids again. These games weren't just fun; these were a way to assert ourselves to claim small victories in a life that often felt dominated by losses. Even though the terrace was harsh, it had a sense of rhythm, with a group of kids hanging out in their own respective sections, forming bonds that felt like family. But the darkness of the environment was always looming. The, pre- the pressure to stay out of the trouble while being surrounded by it was immense. There was no room for weakness, and vulnerability was often met with ridicule or exploitation. As a child, I learned to navigate this complex web of challenges, balancing the innocence of youth with the street smarts necessary to survive. Reflecting on those days, I see the profound lessons in resilience. The terrace both a providing the ground and a battlefield. It taught me the importance of finding strength in the adversity and the value of community, even if it's flawed. From the pain of growing up there left scars, but it also instilled a determination in me to rise above, to transform the struggles into stepping stones for something greater. The terrace wasn't just a physical space; it was a okay. That's a lot. It was a constant teacher, though his lessons were harsh and unforgiving. It was it was where I learned about loyalty and betrayal, strength and vulnerability, dreams and despair. Every corner, every corner, every courtyard, every interaction seemed to carry the weight of survival. Growing up there forced you to see the world differently. It stripped you away the innocence of childhood and replaced it with an acute awareness of life challenges. The people in the terrace were like a family, but not always the kind that uplifted you. We supported each other in some ways, borrowing sugar or sharing meals when times was tough, but in other ways, it felt like crabs in a barrel, with everyone struggling to climb out of the same dire situation and unintentionally pulling each other back down in the process. There was a mix of unspoken solidarity and palpable tension, as if we all knew we were in the fight together, yet also alone. Looking back, I remember nights filled with the echoes of arguments, laughter, and sometimes the haunted sounds of sirens. It was it wasn't unusual to hear police shouting commands or see lights flashing through the windows. As a child, that kind of environment shapes you, forces you to grow up quickly, to analyze situations for danger, to be on alert, event in spaces where you're supposed to feel safe. It was a heavy weight for a kind of carry, but it was also a reality I didn't have the luxury to question. In the midst of struggle, my family stood as my anchor. My mother, Carolyn, my mother, Carolyn, was the epitome of resilience. Her spirit seemed unbreakable, even if she faced what felt like endless challenges. She would walk most places, catching an EMT, making sure that we had what we needed, even when it meant going without herself. My two older sisters, Tiffany and Autumn, stepped in as protectors, shielding me from so-called tough guys, and often acting as my guided light. That made me feel like I was not only the little brother, but also the equal. instilling me in a sense of responsibility and pride. In 1996, when I was 7 years old, going on 8 and 11 days, my world changed forever. My grandmother, who lived 5 minutes away and always one phone call from being up our side, passed away. I gotta fix that. Passed away on July 20th. Her death left a void in my heart that I felt deeply. Before her funeral, I was running around the funeral home and accidentally opened the door to see a white woman on the table. She could have been my grandmother. The image stayed with me, but so did her words. She used to say, "You can do anything you put your mind to." Her voice echoed in my mind during the hardest moments of my life, even years later when I faced homelessness. After her funeral, I asked my mother who the men were conducting the service. I thought she said musicians, and I excitedly told my friends I wanted to be one. When they realized I meant morticians, that I wanted to work with dead bodies, they thought I was weird and told me to get away from them. But even as a child, I felt drawn to work, unknowingly planting a seed for the future. In middle school, life continued to throw challenges my way. I entered my 7th grade at Wayne Middle School when I found out I had a heart murmur. And in my dreams of playing football, losing football was devastating, but I shifted my focus to basketball. I tried out for the team, but when I didn't make it, my coach, Mr. Collins, told me I would never amount to anything. His words cut deep, fueling the fire in me to prove him wrong. Around this time, I started playing dice for money, picking up habits that would later teach me lessons about life and risk. Despite the setbacks, I held on to a dream. I remember attending an Erie Seawolf game with a friend that same year, where we casually talked about wanting to be a funeral director. It seemed like a strange aspiration for kids, but for me, it was like a calling. Even at a young age, I wanted to turn pain into purpose. Despite their support, there were times I felt the sting of loneliness and self-doubt. The terrace was a place that could make you feel both invisible and hyper-visible at the same time. You were constantly judged by peers, by authority figures, even by yourself. It was hard to see beyond the confines of the complex. Harder still to imagine a future that didn't involve the same struggle I saw around me. Yet, in those moments of doubt, there was also a fire that grew inside of me, a desire to defy the expectations placed on me simply because of where I came from. The terrace taught me how to stand tall even when everything around me was trying to push me down. It gave me the grit and determination to dream of something greater, even if I didn't always know how to reach it. Every scar it left, both seen and unseen, became a part of the foundation for the man I am today. Chapter 2, Living in Pittsburgh, 2007 to 2017. Moving to Pittsburgh in 2007 was a turning point in my life. Erie had shaped my childhood, but Pittsburgh would test me in ways I had never imagined. It was a fresh start in a new city, filled with opportunities and challenges that would define my young adulthood. Before I moved, I spent 2006-2007 academic year at Mercer's Northeast College. It was my first taste of higher education, and it taught me the importance of responsibility and perseverance. While I didn't end up finishing at Mercer, the experience opened my eyes to the possibilities of pursuing something greater for myself. I met people from different walks of life, and even though my time there was short, it gave me the foundation of hope and hunger for success. During my time at Mercer, I met 3 friends who would become like brothers to me: DJ, JB, and BD. DJ, who was from the west end of Pittsburgh, knew the city like no one else. His roots ran deep in Pittsburgh, and everywhere we went, DJ was greeted with respect and love. He wasn't just a product of his neighborhood, he was known across the city, respected by people from every corner. Whether it was downtown Pittsburgh, the Hill District, or East Liberty, DJ had connections that extended far and wide. Every other weekend, DJ would take me to Pittsburgh. It wasn't just a chance to explore a bigger city. It was about feeling like I was part of something bigger than myself. He showed me different parts of Pittsburgh, from the quiet corners of the West End to the vibrant streets filled with history and culture. It was during these weekends that I began to feel a sense of belonging to the city that wasn't my own, but had a place for me. Even during Christmas break, when many were headed home to their families, DJs took me to under his wing. The holidays weren't always easy, and it was a reminder of things I didn't have. But with DJ, it felt like I wasn't alone. Christmas in Pittsburgh, or surrounded by DJ's family and friends, became a new tradition. It wasn't about the material things, it was about the love, the laughter, and the feeling of family that DJ offered me without the hesitation. It was a time when I felt seen, cared for, and included in a way that made the holiday special, even if it wasn't home in Erie. JB from Atlanta brought his southern warmth and easygoing nature to our friendship, and BD, quite quiet but wise, was the grounding force. Together we called ourselves the Port, short for the Port of Miami. The name represented our shared ambition, despite where we came from, to rise above the circumstance that sought to keep us down. Our friendship was built on something real, something that went beyond just hanging out or partying. It was a bond that kept us close, even when the world tried to pull us different directions. We didn't need much, but we found ways to make life memorable. One thing that defined us was the small but powerful things we did together. In the bitter cold of the winter, when the snow fell heavy and the streets seemed desolate, we would walk through the blizzards late night to this local Circle K, the Go, hot dogs. Of course, we can't forget the 44-ounce fountain drink to wash it all down. It might sound trivial, but those walks, those shared moments were everything. Were everything. It was a time to talk, laugh, and just be ourselves without anyone judging us or trying to change us. We all redshirted for the basketball team, which meant sitting out a season before we could play. It wasn't easy, but it built our character, our patience, and our bond. Everyone at Mercer has wanted to be cool with us, but we kept our circle tight. We didn't need the validations of others. We were enough as we were. That bond, our small, tight-knit group, was stronger than anything else. We had each other backs, no matter what. Before I left college, my mom and I had a deep conversation about my future. She never wanted me to end up like so many others we saw around us. People have given up on their dreams and were stuck in the cycle of mediocrity, just hanging around the park, wasting their days away. One of her favorite sayings was, "Don't be a wish you, should have, could you type of person." She was adamant about that. She didn't want me to be filled with regret later in life. Looking back at the opportunities I didn't take or dream, I didn't take or dreams I didn't pursue. She wanted me to be someone who took action, someone who made the most out of every moment, and then let life pass behind the blur of missed chances. Her words stuck with me, especially when things got tough. She wasn't just trying to motivate me, she was showing me the hard truth about life. She wanted me to take control of my destiny and to keep pushing forward and never settle for less. Her advice was a constant reminder that I had a choice in how I lived, and I had the power to shape my future. Even as we faced difficulties together, especially when I was on my own trying to make it, her words and her guideposts, she made sure I knew I wasn't meant to just exist. I was meant to thrive, and I had to keep moving toward my goals, no matter the obstacles. Shortly after leaving college, I moved to Pittsburgh to enroll at the Pittsburgh Job Corps. It was a place of opportunity designed to help people like me gain the skills and education we needed to succeed. A week after I enrolled at Job Corps, I received heartbreaking news. One of my younger friends from Erie had been murdered. The shock and pain were almost unbearable. I had always hoped that, like me, would find a way out of the harsh realities we grew up around. But the hope was shattered in an instant. The last interaction I had with him been simple but meaningful. I had given him my basketball, the very one I kept since high school. It was more than just a piece of equipment to me. It represented my journey, my dreams, and all the memories I had attached to it. It was my way passing something down, something that had carried me through the tough times, something I hoped could inspire me as he navigated his own struggles. When I heard the news, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of regret. What more could I have done? Could I have been there for him one? Could I have been there for him more, or somehow shielded him from the violence that claimed his life? Those questions lingered for a long time. His death felt like a harsh reminder of the precariousness of life, precarious, of life, especially in the neighborhoods where opportunities were scarce, and survival often felt like the ultimate goal. It was also a stark contrast to the new opportunities I was trying to seize in Pittsburgh, and it made me reflect on the thin line between life and death in the environment I had grown up in. The moment losing someone so young reminded me of stakes of choices we make, and it fueled my determination to keep pushing forward, not just for myself, but in honor of those who didn't get the chance to follow their dreams. At, at Pittsburgh Job Corps, I took the health occupation trade, determined to make the most of this opportunity. I poured my energy into the program and completed it in record time, just 7 months. This achievement was more than just a certificate. It was a testament to my focus and drive to change my life for the better. While at Job Corps, I joined the basketball team while I played under the guidance of Coach Coleman and Coach Blue. Basketball had always been a passion of mine, and playing for Job Corps gave me an opportunity to meet other young men who shared that passion. Many of the players on the team were talented and had the opportunity, had the potential to play at the highest level. Division I schools like Pitt, Penn State, and Duquesne. Competing against them gave me the confidence to believe I too could one day play on a big stage. Each game, each practice was a reminder of my own potential and what could have achieved with hard work, dedication, and a belief in myself. It was a powerful feeling knowing that I was on the same court as some of the future stars of college basketball. After completing Job Corps, I moved to the north side of Pittsburgh to a place called Tru Hicks. It was a tight-knit community, but like many urban neighborhoods, it had its struggles. Tru Hicks taught me resilience. Leaving there, I experienced the stark realities of city life, opportunities mixed with adversities, hope mixed with hardship. It was a place where people looked out for one another, but also had to navigate the challenges of poverty and crime. The challenges of poverty and crime were, excuse me, the challenges of poverty and crime were ever present in the neighborhoods of Pittsburgh, especially in the areas like Northview Heights. This community, was not immune to the struggles that come with limited resources and systematic inequalities. The circle of poverty trapped many of the residents in crime, often born out of desperation, and added another layer of hardship to their lives. For me, living there felt like being caught between two worlds, the hope of a better future and the harshness of my environment. Northview Heights was a reminder that despite the opportunity I was trying to create for myself, the challenges were still right there. The pressures to survive, the temptation to follow the same destructive path others had taken, and the constant fear of violence, and all of it was a stark reality I had to face every day. It was tough not to be consumed by the struggles around me, I saw firsthand how crime could tear communities apart, whether it was through drug dealing, gang violence, or random acts of aggression. Those who caught, excuse me, those who got caught in the crossfire, whether directly or indirectly, were left to pick up the pieces. The fear was always present, knowing that at any moment someone could be taken from you. Yet, even with that, there was moments of solidarity. People who lived through the same struggles found ways to support one another. The relationship that formed out of the necessity, even in the face of hardship, were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It was in these moments of unity, whether helping a neighbor, sharing a meal, or simply listening to each other, that I found strength. These acts, small as they seemed, were a reminder that community was still possible, even if it felt like everything was falling apart. But the harshness of the streets was never far behind. It shaped the choices I made and the path I walked. It was sometimes I couldn't escape. It made me realize that making it out of those conditions, succeeding in the face of adversity, wasn't just a personal victory. It was a victory for everyone who had ever been left behind by the world. Even though I was living in Pittsburgh, I still maintained strong ties to my roots in Erie. Despite the distance, the connections to people and the places I grew up with with never with never truly faded. I kept in touch with family and friends from Erie, and those relationships continued to shape who I was, even from afar. Erie, with all its struggles and challenges, had instilled in me a sense of community that I carried with me. The relationship I had built, but there, whether my mother's siblings or friends, remained a part of me no matter where I went. I would make frequent trips back to visit, especially when things got tough in Pittsburgh. Those visits were reminders of where I came from and why I had to keep pushing forward. Some of my closest friends in the area, like the ones who had been through the same struggles growing up, stayed in touch and kept me grounded. We would talk about our lives, our plans, and the dreams we still had, despite the odds we had, despite the odds stacked against us. It was those conversations that I found the motivation to keep moving, knowing that people I cared about were rooting for me, even if we were miles apart. Despite the physical distance, the emotional connection to Erie and its people was always there, pulling me back when I needed it the most. It was a reminder that even as I navigate the hardship of Pittsburgh, I was never truly alone. My past, my family, and my friends from Erie was always with me, no matter how far away they were. After a few years in Pittsburgh, I found myself back in Erie, staying with my mom for a few months. I was searching for something, maybe stability, maybe comfort. But what I found instead was a temptation that pulled me into the wrong crowd. I fell back into the old patterns, reconnecting with people who weren't pushing me towards growth or success. Instead, they were deep in the same struggles that had almost swallowed me up before. The familiar faces that comfort. Hey, baby,
Hey,
how's it going?
how's it going?
It's going good. I'm on page 8.
Oh wow, so you got
I
a ways
got-
to go.
Yeah, 144 pages.
Okay.
So we're gonna get there, inshallah. Um, the familiar faces, the comfort of being, the familiar faces, the comfort of being black, and a place that knew me seemed to offer security. But I soon, but I soon realized, I soon realized that being back in Erie, surrounded by those same environments, was a dangerous trap. The wrong crowd had a way of luring me back into bad habits. Um, I, I'll take that now.
Yeah, got you a little something.
Oh,
Got you a nice
cheesecake.
cheesecake. Yeah.
Look at that, y'all. I never had no cheesecake was from Cheesecake Factory?
Cheesecake Factory.
Cheesecake Factory. How about that?
It look good too.
It do look good. So I'm gonna try it right now. Wow.
Careful with it.
Man. Let me see what I'm at right here.
Scoot it back a little bit.
That's good right there. I just want to put it right there so I know I'm stop that. Man.
Oops, got my hand a little bit. Look good. You deserve it. You don't eat like this. Rarely do you eat like this, so. I'm listening and wow. Very powerful, very, very detailed, very good.
Appreciate it. I'm on page 10. I thought I was on page 8, but.
On 10? Okay.
Wow. Yeah, try one.
We gonna be to eat the whole thing.
That's enough. Got 3 hours until the new year, so. You wanna read a little bit? Alright. Okay, it says.
Pineapple.
Oh, it's pineapple.
It's pineapple, right?
Oh, no, it's good to me.
I like it's pineapple and cherry. Whipped cream.
That's good. Yeah, that's real good. Peace, y'all. Go ahead and hit the share button. Let this video go from 1 share to 10 shares, 10 shares to 100 shares, 100 shares to 1,000 shares, 1,000 shares to 10,000 shares, 10,000 shares to 100,000 shares. Y'all know the rest. 100,000 shares to 1,000,000 shares, and it all starts with you. Go ahead and Dion's Life on YouTube. She's crushing y'all. That's my wife. She doing big numbers, you know. I'm catching up. So go ahead and check her YouTube page out, Dion's Life. If you're watching me on Facebook, go to YouTube as well, Tru Hicks, TruHicks. So I'm gonna get back to Beat the Odds. So it says, in the streets, the temptation to get involved in things that seem like quick fixes for that pain and frustration. What I felt was, I'm sorry, that cake is good.
It is good.
In the streets, the temptation to get involved in things that seem like quick fixes for the pain and frustration I felt was always present. People who didn't want to see me win, but who were determined to keep me stuck in the cycle of struggle and hardship. It was a constant reminder of how far I can come, but also how easy it was to slip back into the darkness. It took me a while to recognize that I had to make a choice. Continue down this dangerous path or break free and get back on track. It was easy, but every experience, every moment in a dark place was a reminder that I had to keep fighting something better, something more. During my time back in Erie, I found myself caught up in a whirlwind of violence and bad decisions. I had always known that the streets could be dangerous, but I never realized how quickly I could slip into a world once again. Come here, baby. You know, people on the East Coast is about to be New Year's, so for all my people on the East Coast, we just want to say Happy New Year from the Hickses. Like I said, go ahead and check out Dion's page. Go show your face, baby. You gotta see your face. Good. Okay. So from there, we just want to again say Happy New Year's. You know, may Allah found favor upon you. May Allah found favor upon the winners. So be at peace, love, unity, community, and family. Make sure y'all check out my page, check out her page. Let's support each other, y'all. We love y'all. Happy New Year's on the East Coast. I just hit 12/12. It's January 1st, 2025. So, give me a
Peace,
kiss.
prosperity,
Peace, prosperity, love.
happiness, love,
Sure.
good health, good wealth. Be kind to others, treat others with respect. Focus on your faith, focus on yourself, focus on being a better you each and every day, and build your relationship with God, the Creator, and love on your family, love on your loved ones, and yeah, just rock out, enjoy life, enjoy life.
All right, y'all. Let me get back to this reading.
All right, so
I'm right here. Okay.
all right,
Um,
love you.
Peace.
Peace.
It's 9 o'clock. That's how I thought it was 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock. But anyways, yeah. So in the streets, the temptation to get involved in things that seem like, okay, she put it right there. That quick, pass me the cake. I'm telling y'all that cake is so good, you know.
Okay, I am. Need a napkin or something?
I'm good then.
All right, dog.
Mm-hmm. In the streets, the temptation to get involved. Okay, during my times in there, I found myself caught up in the whirlwind of violence and bad decisions. I had always known the streets could be dangerous, but I realized how quickly I could slip into the world once again. It wasn't just like people I was hanging with, it was the environment itself. The tension in the air that I felt like I could snap at any moment. There was a constant undercurrent of violence, and I became a part of it. I got into several fights, pushed into situations where defending myself felt like the only option. Something that was over proud. Sometimes it was this mix of anger and frustration that spilled over. The adrenaline, the emotion, all seemed to cloud my judgment. And I found myself in a situation I couldn't escape. But the worst was when I became involved in the shootouts, something I never imagined myself being a part of.
Come on, guys.
I wasn't the one pulling the trigger, but I was in the car, driving the getaway, racing through the streets I had known my whole life, but now it seemed like a maze of danger. The violence around me wasn't just a series of isolated incidents. It was a pattern, a cycle that threatened to take me down with it. Each time it felt like I was barely dodging the consequences. But the weight of those moments, the choices I made, were taking their toll. I knew I wasn't the person I wanted to be, but it was hard to escape the life that I had stepped back into. It felt like that every time I tried to break free, I was dragged back in deeper in each fight or shootout. I got further away from life that I had dreamed of, from the future I was supposed to be building. But there was always a voice inside of me telling me I couldn't stay in this world forever, something I had to give. It was in a small, dimly lit living room, that floor scattered with the dice, and a group of people huddled around, eagerly watching each row. Excuse me. The air was thick with tension, the sound of dice clattering against the floor echoing like a countdown. We were shooting dice, no fancy setup, just raw, gritty atmosphere of a high-stake game. The stakes were never clear, but the energy in the room made it feel like everything hinged on that next row. For 3 days, a full house, about 20 plus people gathered in the living room, all shooting dice, the tension growing with each row, each wager, and each win, and each loss. It was a chaotic, intense, and full of energy. The room was filled with the sound of dice clattering against the floor, people shouting, betting, and keeping a sharp eye for every move. The first night, everything seemed to be going my way. The dice felt hot in my hand, and each throw I piled up pouring a couple. With need some tea too. I piled up my winnings. The journey kept me going. The thrill of victory caught in my judgment. I had about 10,000 by the time the night was winding down, feeling on top of the world. But as the hours wore, on, the dice kept rolling. The atmosphere shifted. The initial rush began to fade. I slipped in further into the game, chasing my losses with the same intensity that had driven me to success earlier. By the third day, the tables had turned. Through the sheer persistence, luck, and maybe a bit of recklessness, I managed to claw my way back up, winning my losses back and then some, and then some. At one point, I had amassed about 25,000 to 30,000, an impressive sum that could change everything. It was a rush. It was a rush, an overwhelming sense of triumph, but it was also a dangerous game. The more I won, the deeper I fell into the trap, thinking I could control it. That dice could somehow be predicted. The outcome could always be in my favor. But with every win, there was a sense of unease creeping in. I had spent 3 days chasing the high gambling away from the away from more than I could afford to lose. It was just me and the OG left. Everyone else had come and gone, tired of the endless game or frustration by their losses. The noise had died down, leaving us just leaving just leaving the two of us. The dice and the silence that was louder than anything before. We continued shooting, but now it wasn't about the game. It felt like something deeper was unfolding. What was unfolding in that moment was the emotional breakdown of the OG. He had been heavily medicated and told it, and the toll of lack of sleep had taken on everyone involved. For days, the tension had been mounting, and it seemed like the chaotic environment had finally pushed him past his breaking point. After I won all the money, he asked for some of it back. I refused, remembering that not too long ago, before when he had won big, he told us no when we asked for a cut, citing his responsibility to provide for his kids. So I stood firm, holding away to my winnings. But after several more requests, the OG anger reached to a boiling point. He pretended to pass out, then, without warning, he struck, sneaking a punch that sent me onto the ground. What what followed was a relentless barrage of punches as he demanded his money back, plus everything I had won. Despite the pain, I didn't give in. For at least 10 minutes, I held my ground, enduring the blows. I refused to let him take what was mine, and through the physical pain was intense the emotional strength it took to stand there, unyielding, and something I will never forget. It was a brutal reminder of lengths people would go to when desperation and pride took over. After that moment, I came to that painful realization. Nobody really had my back the way I needed. It was a harsh truth to face, but I knew it was time to move away from Erie for good. I needed to start fresh, away from turmoil, and pursue a better life. Pittsburgh, where I had once started to build something for myself, became my next chapter. I moved back to Pittsburgh and was fortunate to re-enroll at Pittsburgh Job Corps. The timing worked out, as once you complete a program at Job Corps, you typically are ineligible to return for a year. However, I was granted an acceptation, and this chance was one I wasn't going to waste. The second opportunity felt like a turning point, a moment where I could take control of my life again and make choices that would move me toward a brighter future. Returning to Pittsburgh to enroll to Job Corps felt like a second chance. One I'm going to waste. This time, I'll focus on learning skills that would be open new doors for me and provide a steady foundation for my future. I decided to take the trades of warehouse, operation, and HVAC. These was practical and demand skills that could lead a solid career, something that had been craving after all the hardships. The teacher for the warehouse and the HVAC program, Mr. Coleman, a mentor who played a key role in the time of Job Corps, He was tough but fair, and his commitment to teaching was clear from day one. Mr. Coleman had a way of pushing us to our limits while making sure we learned the skills we needed to succeed. Under their guidance, I not only gained valuable knowledge in both fields, but also developed a deeper sense of discipline and responsibility. His lesson went beyond just the technical aspect of HVAC and warehouse management. He taught us the importance of work ethic, attention to detail, and the pride in going and doing a job right. It wasn't just about learning how to fix systems or operate equipment. It was about shaping ourselves into professionals who could handle the real world with confidence. The time at Job Corps was about more than just getting a certificate. It was about building that kind of life I had been striving for, one with stability and purpose. I made sure to apply myself fully, not just to the skills, but for the chance to finally create a future when I could be proud of my accomplishments. It was a hard work road, but with the right mindset and the support of the teachers like Mr. Coleman, I knew I was headed in the right direction. When I was taking warehouse and HVAC trades at Job Corps, I was also given the opportunity to work. The beauty of Job Corps was that it allowed students to gain real world experience while still focusing on their education. Fortunately, the job was a job available at the Southwest Veterans Center, located within walking distance from the campus. The job was a lifesaver for me. It gave me a chance to earn money while I continued to work towards a brighter future. Working at the working at Southwest Veterans Center wasn't just about earning a paycheck. It was also a chance to prove to myself that I could balance work and school and still stay on track to improve my life. It also allowed me to experience a different side of Pittsburgh, meeting new people and getting to know the city beyond the classroom. The proximity of um, SWVC, Southwest Veterans Center, to Job Corps made it easier to me to focus on both my education without the added stress and a long commute. It was a small win that made all the difference, keeping me grounded and motivated during a critical time in my life. Working at the Southwest Veterans Center, working at the Southwest Veterans Center gave me the opportunity to meet older individuals who became key figures in my life. These were people with more experience, wisdom, and different perspective on the world. It wasn't just about work, it was just about learning from them, hearing their stories, and gaining insights into challenges and triumphs they have faced. My first cheesecake, fire. Um, whew. Having these older friends, in the beginning, it was just the two of us living in a. Okay, so yeah. During this time, I also had to manage the emotional side of things. It wasn't easy to take on the responsibility alone, but it forced me to stay grounded and keep my focus on goals. Even with the financial burden, I knew I was creating a foundation for something bigger. It wasn't about the space. It was about pushing through the moments and build resilience. I often think about my past where I wanted to go in life. The quietness of my house, were initially unsettling, gave me time. um, as the time went on, my best friend finally moved in. Things would start to feel more like home. That's when the energy of the house began to change, and I realized how much I needed the positive influence of a close friend around me. After my best friend moved in, the dynamic of the house shifted. It was no longer just about managing responsibilities. It was about it was about enjoying life and building something together. We started partying, making money, living in the moment, and appreciating the good times. The atmosphere and became lively, filled with laughter and the shared moments. We both enjoyed the company and support, but it was also a time that we saw that rewards of hard work starting to pay off. Our friendship even grew stronger, and with him around, things felt like we were moving in the right direction. The vibe of the house shifted from quiet struggle to a more energetic, collaborative space. We were no longer just two individuals trying to get by. We were as a team making the most of every opportunity that came our way. Despite the challenges, we found a balance between working hard, making money, and enjoying each other's company. It was a pivotal time, and we felt like everything was finally aligning in the way that we hoped. Things took a turn when my best friend moved his wife and two children to our house. It was once a lively, carefree environment quickly became complicated. The dynamic shifted, a responsibility grew, and the space we had once enjoyed with friends and feeling a lot smaller. It wasn't just about us anymore. There was now more people, more needs, and more challenges to manage under one roof. Having a family Having a family in the house brought a new level of stress. The energy you once had for the party and enjoying life was now directed towards keeping the household functioning. There were added expenses, more noise, and difficult routines. It wasn't easy to adjust, and tension began to rise at the reality of sharing a home with a family setting. Despite the changes, I tried my best to make it work. I valued my friendship and wanted to support him any way I could, but the situation wasn't what I had envisioned when we first decided to move in together. The strain began to weigh on me, and I started questioning how sustainable this arrangement could be for all of us. It was a turning point that forced me to think of my priorities, the path I wanted to make for it. Give me 1 second, y'all. Gotta get my tea. Okay. Thank you for staying with me, y'all. Yeah, in that mug, I forget that. It gets real hot. Again, shout out to my school, Pim's, Dr. Joe. Thank you for the mug. Okay, what we got? Both roommates eventually went back to not. Despite the change, I tried my best to make it work. I valued my friendship and wanted to support him any way I could. But the situation wasn't what I envisioned when we first decided to move together. The strain began to weigh on me, and I started questioning how sustainable this arrangement could be for all of us. It was a turning point that forced me to rethink my priorities and the path I wanted to take moving forward. Both roommates eventually went back to not to contribute financially, leaving me to shoulder bills once again. It was a frustrating situation, especially since we had already been through a similar phase with the first when the household first came together. Balancing the weight of financial responsibilities while maintaining our friendship became a delicate act. Living in these conditions wasn't easy, but taught me resilience and the importance of setting boundaries. I realized when I was I realized that while our friendship could withstand my test, there's a fine line between being supportive and being taken for granted. Still, I held onto the hope until our friendship would last beyond the challenges of living in urgent. On June 12, 2011, after finishing a shift at the Southwest Veterans Center, I decided to unwind and went to a bar called Hot Rods. It was supposed to be a regular evening to relax and enjoy myself after work, but that night marked the beginning of something far more serious. The bar was alive with energy, music playing, people laughing and conversation flowing. It was a familiar atmosphere, but little did I know the events would unfold were anything but ordinary. The night had a strange tension to it, as though something significant was just beneath the surface waiting to emerge. At the back of the bar, I was playing pool, letting the evening settle in. A few guys approached, eager to play some bets on the Miami Heat and Dallas Mavericks game that was about to start. The atmosphere grew competitive as they talked trash and threw out numbers. What they didn't know was I already had been deep into betting the game earlier at work. By the time I walked into Hot Rock that night, I already had secured 3,000 in bets on the game. These were serious stakes, and my confidence in the outcome had me ready to up the ante even more. The excitement of betting wasn't about the money; it was about the thrill of risk, of putting it on all line, the potential for a big payoff. That's I'm sorry. Ooh. The excitement wasn't about getting money; it was the thrill of risk, of putting on the line, the potential of big payoff. The night, as the bets were stacking up and the game near tip off, the stakes felt higher than ever. The energy of Hard Rock's bar on June 12th was intense. Oops. The energy in the Hard Rock's bar was intense as I played pool and talked to as I talked around the bar shifted to the Miami Heat and Dallas Mavericks game. Everyone had the bets and I already put um 3,000 bets I work in the state fields personally. The game was crucial with Miami had superstars LeBron James, Dwayne Wade were leading the charge. They were expected to win, but as the game progressed, it became clear the Mavericks were going to take the win. The final buzzer sounded and the bar erupted as Dallas clinched their first ever championship. As the final whistle blew, the Dallas Mavericks had taken the championship, and with it, my 3,000 in bets. I felt devastated, hurt, and completely lost. The feeling of being scammed washed over me as I sat there, unable to process the loss. My world felt heavy, and the ball still I was sitting in seemed like sinking beneath me, a physical manifestation of weight on my chest. The anger and confusion swirled with me, making me question everything I wanted to lash out, but I knew it was pointless. After the game and the anger and frustration consumed me, oops, as I paid the guys I owed, walked out of the bar, I felt like I had lost everything, my money, my pride, and my confidence. I needed to do something. Anything to release the chaos building inside me. I hopped in my car and drove aimlessly. My mind I had put I I drove aimlessly. My mind clouded by the weight of the loss. My emotion got the best of me, and before I knew it, I put out my gun and fired off a few shots into the air. A desperate attempt to let out the storm of anger I couldn't contain. The anger continued to eat at me, but in the silence of the night, I was clear. I was spiraling. My thoughts raced, and the realization that I had lost not just money, but part of myself hit hard. After firing the shots, I didn't feel any relief. The consequences were never far from my mind. I knew I had crossed the line, but in the moment, I felt powerless to stop. I drove back, feeling like I was running from the consequences of my own action. It wasn't about just the money anymore. It was deeper. When I came back to Hot Rods after the game, I saw the two roommates. I saw my two roommates. They were there, seemingly unaffected by what just happened. I, on the other hand, was still reeling from the loss, feeling the weight of the events that had just unfolded. My mind was still clouded with anger, confusion, and regret. It was like I was living in two worlds. One where I was trying to hold everything together, and another where everything was slipping away. The room felt different. It almost felt heavier. After leaving Hot Rocks, my roommates offered to buy a six-pack to help me calm down. I agreed, and we left. And as we left, I shared what just happened, the gambling loss, the frustration, and the anger that had built up inside me. One of my roommates, not my best friend, encouraged me to take matters into my own hands. Matters in my own hands. I mean, work hard, y'all. You can get something worth deserve to eat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, work hard. I worked hard. I worked hard. That's good. Encouraged me to take matters into my own hands and use my guns to get my money back. It was a suggestion that stirred something dark inside me, a dangerous thought that began to take root. We was driving my 2004 green Honda. The familiar hum of the engine blended with the intensity of my thoughts. The tension in the car was palpable as we made our way to the next bar in Mount Washington. The city lights blurred past, but my mind was fixated on the idea of confronting the people who had taken my money. My roommates encouraged me to push me too close to the dark decision. And for a moment, the thought of revenge felt like the only way to reclaim control. As we cruised through Mount Washington in my Honda, the weight of the situation kept pulling me deeper into the dark mindset. The car seemed too close. The car seemed too close in around me as I replayed everything in my mind. My emotions were raw from loss, and now with my roommates pushing me further into the dangerous path, my thoughts became consumed with retaliation. It felt like there was no other option but, but to get my money back by force to restore some kind of control over my spiraling life. It was a decision that scared me, but that moment, the anger blinded me to the consequences. I was beyond furious. The anger was searing through my veins, and the idea of walking away empty-handed was unbearable. I could feel my heart pounding as I gripped the wheel tighter. My mind clouded with rage. My thoughts were spiraling, filled by betrayal and the humiliation of losing everything. Losing everything. Mm. If you happy, you know what clappy, man. Um, this is real good. I was beyond furious. The anger was searing through my veins, and the idea of walking empty-handed was unbearable. I could feel my heart pounding as I gripped the wheel tighter. My mind clouded with rage. My thoughts were spiraling, fueled by betrayal and the humiliation of losing everything. I slammed my foot on the gas, headed back to the bar, determined to make those guys feel the same heat that had been rolling inside of me. I wasn't going to leave without my money, or at least make them feel the consequence of their action. As I drove back to the hot rods, I barely could think straight. My anger was building. My anger was blinded, and I could feel it bubbling up, ready to explode. The world around me faded as my mind replayed the game, the bets, and the loss. The only thing I cared about now, when I was getting my money back and making those guys regret what I did, it wasn't rational anymore. All I wanted was revenge. Every bump in the road felt like drove to my nerves. I was on a mission. Nothing would stop me. I was at the intersection of Virginia Ave and Wyoming. I looked to my left and saw the police. I waved them off, but they waved back, signaling me to go. For about 20 seconds, we exchanged glances, and I looked, and I thought I was in the clear, but just seconds later, we got pulled over. The officers ordered us out of the car and had us walk backwards. The female cop hit me in the back of the head, forcing me to the ground. She arrested me, telling me telling me there had been a shooting nearby, and they searched my car. Brought more trouble. After being pulled over, Pittsburgh Police Zone 5 took us to the station. It was chaotic. It was a chaotic shift from the confusion of being stopped, questioned, to the cold, harsh reality of holding cells. I was processed, booked, and kept in a small, uncomfortable space. The officers didn't treat us like we were people. They treated us like criminals. As I sat there, waiting for what came next, I couldn't shake the feeling that things had spiraled out of control. It was a far cry from carefree life I imagined just days before. I was coerced into writing a statement, admitting that I had a firearm and was shooting at a group of people. That the charges I faced were serious: carrying a firearm without a license, aggravated assault with a weapon, attempted homicide, and resisting arrest. The weight of these charges hit me hard, and I knew my life had taken a turn I couldn't reverse. I was now facing a major crossroads, with the legal system closing in on me. The legal system in Pittsburgh, like many other cities, is structured to address both minor and major offenses through a series of court and procedures. For serious charges like mine, carrying a firearm, aggravated assault, attempted homicide, The process involves the county court system, where cases are assigned based on evidence and legal representation. Pittsburgh legal environment can be intense, and navigating it requires understanding the serious consequences that becomes charged, especially when the situation involves gun violence or other crimes. With all charges I was facing, the only thing I could focus on was the fact that, to me, I had only shot a few rounds in the air. I had no intentions of harming anyone or causing chaos that followed. Yet the legal system doesn't always care about the intent; it cares about the action and consequences. The fact that something so small could snowball into series of criminal charges was both eye-opening and terrifying. I realized that I realized the weight of what had happened was much heavier than I ever imagined. As I as they took me out of the holding cell and placed the handcuffs off me, I briefly I briefly thought it was gonna give me a ride home. The calmness of my the calmness of the moment was deceptive, but as soon as we turned into 10th Street, I knew it was over. The reality hit me hard. I was headed home. I wasn't headed home. I was headed to jail, and the moment felt like the end of everything. The end of everything I had been trying to avoid. There was no turning back. As I entered the county jail, a wave of unfamiliar sights and sounds hit me. The cold, the closed, sterile environment, the echo of heavy doors slamming shut, the buzz of fluorescent lights, and made it clear that I wasn't stepping into a new reality. That I was stepping into a new reality. Guards barked orders, and inmates moved through the halls with a mix of indifference and hostility. I stripped up everything in my possession, my freedom, and a sense of identity. It felt like being swallowed up whole by the system, and there was no escape. The first day I was placed in that county jail felt like I was the long felt like the longest 10 hours of my life. They completely forgot I was there. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. Every second dragging on the eternity. The room was small, cold, and dimly lit, with nothing but faint hum of Florence lights and muffled noises from distant calls. And I noticed I had no access to food, water, or even a way to ask what was going on. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional clanging of metal doors or footsteps echoing down the hallway. I couldn't help but feel like I was being punished before even having my day in court. The isolation forced my mind to race, going over everything that had happened, questioning every decision I made, and fearing what lay ahead. I felt abandoned, not just physically but emotionally. But as but as but I'm sorry. As I didn't even exist in the system. When a guard finally came and checked on me, I didn't know whether to be relieved or angry. It was a small mercy to remember, but the realization that I've been I've been neglected for so long left a bitter taste. Those 10 hours were a stark introduction to what I faced in the days to come. A system that didn't care about the individual, only the process. After being from the After being removed from each holding cell was I was forgetting. They led me to they led me to the fingerprint station. Each step I took felt heavier than the last, as if as the air itself was weighing me down. The cold ink smeared across my fingers like a binding contract. They sent you to my new reality. As I watched, the officer carefully pressed my fingers into the card. The finality of it hit me. This wasn't this wasn't a misunderstanding or something I could brush off. I was officially part of the system now. My mind raced, replaying every decision that led to this moment. It wasn't just ink. It was the mark of everything I had tried to avoid but I couldn't escape. Following my fingerprint, they escorted me to another station where my mugshot was taken. The experience the experience clinical the experience was clinical and impersonal. As though every bit of my humanity was being stripped away. It can't oh, I see. The officer's hands were cold and methodical, moving without hesitation. I wanted to ask or explain myself, but the atmosphere was heavy with indifference. My identity was being cataloged as a number in the system. Afterward, they led me to another station. Oh, I said that. Here I felt the weight of the situation even more profoundly. Everyone was sizing each other up, and I quickly learned that eye contact with me misconstructed as a challenge. The correction officer didn't explain much, just barked orders to keep moving or stand in line. I kept my head down, observing and trying to figure out where I fit in a chaotic environment. I knew survival here would depend on staying aware of avoiding unnecessary trouble. The moment of my arraignment hearing was no different from the others, except for the underlying tension. The air in the holding cell felt heavier, and as if everyone knew something significant was about to unfold. 5 of us were being processed that day, each one with a different set of charges, different stories, and different futures at stake. We were all ushered into a small, cold room that kind of where the concrete walls felt like it was closing in on you. The process was mechanical, almost clinical. One by one, we were called in to stand before the screen. The judge's voice echoed through the small speakers, calm and authoritative. The cold, emotionless tone made the whole situation feel even more surreal, as we were nothing more than cases on the docket. The judge didn't speak to us directly. Instead, it felt as though he was speaking at us, reading off charges and sending bell amounts like he was simply going through a routine. If y'all just tapping in, I just want to say I'm grateful for you to support. Also, I forgot to mention that I hit 100 subscribers today. Um, I'm proud of myself. Um, I got 100. I got a lot more to go. And I just want to say again to the 100 ones that supported me from day one, I truly appreciate you. Right now, I'm reading Beat the Odds, if you can't tell by now, but this is my book. This is my first book. I wrote. Um, I haven't published it yet. However, I will. Um, so if you're a publisher out there that's willing to help me publish my first book, more power to you. Please get in contact with me, and myself or my team will get with you. Um, we got a lot of things going on um, this year, next year, tomorrow, last year, whenever. But just get with my team and let us know what's up. Also, I'll be traveling. I've been traveling. However, my wife and I will be traveling the 50 states this year. So if you have a state you want me to come to and you tell me the city, like I said, get with me or my team and we'll be calling to reach out to you and set something up. Um, Again, my YouTube is Tru Hicks. My Facebook is Joshua D. Hicks. My email is JANDPREMIER. And if someone could put this in the chat too, I'll be appreciated. It's JANDPREMIER dot TRADERSERVICES at gmail.com. So J and Premier dot trade services at gmail.com. Okay. At the first man stood in front of the screen, I couldn't help but listen closely, observing the details of the charges. Each name was called, followed by the charges read out loud, and the judge's decision on bail. It was a strange hearing. Bail set at 500,000. Oh no. Bill, in the same detached tone that might announce the time or whether I was next, and my heart was pounding in my chest. It wasn't just fear, it was the sheer weight of the unknown. When my name was called, I stood up and walked towards the screen. The judge faced appeared and quickly began to read off charges. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My mind trying to process what was happening, trying to remember what I had done and what I had. I knew I had pleaded not guilty, but reality of hearing my charges let out in front of me was sobering. Bail is set at 500,000. The judge declared the words felt like a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. I could feel the weight. I could feel the other man's eyes on me, but I kept my focus straight ahead, trying to suppress the anxiety that was bubbling inside. I was sure what I had expected, maybe something different, maybe different outcome, but the number felt like a burden, one that might as well have been immeasurable. I'm gonna give another shout out to my baby. This is my first time eating Cheesecake Factory cheesecake, and she surprised me, y'all. She told, she told me that I was working hard, and she know I never had one. So that's the beauty in marriage, y'all. She knows what I like. I know what she likes. I'm not saying we don't have our disagreements. It's okay to have disagreements, but we work things out. We love each other. We uplift each other. We encourage each other. We support each other, no matter what. Rule number one is never go against the family. So I know it. She know it. So be all right, y'all. We chillin'. We really beat the odds by Joshua D. Hicks. Mama gave me the name of Joshua Daniel. Actually, my sister Tiffany gave me the name Joshua. And Allah gave me the name of Tru Hicks. Represent truth, righteousness, universal. Oh, you want to put the E on it? Okay, let's do it. Let's put the E on it. The E only stands for energy. And where's the energy at, y'all? Energy is inside you. So go ahead and get a hoodie. Or get one of my hoodies. Energy. That's my clothing line. Also, Tru Hicks is my clothing line. Hit the inbox up. Also I got another clothing line. It's called One of a Kind. So if you want something, just let me know. I'll make it for you. And I'll send it to you. And I'll tell you the price. So get with me. My socials, my email, my telephone number. So again, make this video go from 1 shares to 1,000,000 shares, and it starts with you. I'm gonna read a little bit more. I'm about to get going here. But I'm gonna read a little bit more. Then I'm gonna cut it off, y'all, and I'll pick this up tomorrow, and tap it back in with me. I'm gonna finish the whole book, inshallah. Oh, there you go. Bill was set at 500,000. The judge declared. The words felt like a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. I could feel the other man's eyes on me, but my focus straight ahead and trying to suppress the anxiety that was bubbling inside me. I wasn't sure what I had expected. Maybe something different. Maybe a different outcome. But the number felt like a barrier, one that might as well have been immeasurable. I nodded to acknowledge the judge, but inside I was grappling with the overwhelming weight of it all. Bill that high felt like a statement. It wasn't about the money. It was about the seriousness of the chapter and the perceived risk I posed. I couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. How would I manage to pay that, if at all, and what my future held in a system that felt like I had already swallowed me up. As I was escorted back to my holding area, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was just another clog in a machine, a system that moves without care or individual, where people were nothing more than just more than numbers. The same day of my arraignment, I was taken back to the holding area. The overwhelming weight of everything started to sink in. I was still processing the surreal nature of hearing, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped. It was then, amidst the clatter of the noise and confusion, that I met a man who changed the course of my experience. He was sitting across from me, observing the room with a calm demeanor that stood out in a chaotic environment. I couldn't help notice him, but his presence somehow different from others. After a while, he made his way over to where I was sitting. He didn't say much at first, but when our eyes met, he asked me how I was holding up. I gave him the typical response, "I'm good," even though my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. He smiled knowingly, and and then said, "You don't look good. You look like someone who doesn't know how to get out of here." I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "You couldn't say that." I said, "You could say that." That's when he started talking, explaining that intricacies of bill system and how things really worked in a place like this. He was older, probably in his late 40s, and his weathered face showed he had been through the system more than once. He explained how the whole bail process wasn't about justice; it was about money. He told me about the bail could be set ridiculous high, especially if the charges were serious, and how it often wasn't about whether you were guilty or not. It was about how much money you could pay to get out. He also taught me about the phone system, which felt like a maze of options and codes I never known existed. He told me how to use it strategically, how to make calls that could help me help get me in touch with someone on the outside. Excuse me. Who might be able to help. He walked he walked me through the process of calling an attorney's family's friend and how to use every opportunity to push for help, even if like no one was listening. Get this something right. Great job. It wasn't just about making calls. It was about knowing what you say, who talk, who to talk to, and how to work the system. He showed me how to get someone to put up a bond, how to request a bond hearing, and how to make sure I didn't get lost in the shuffle. He gave me real practical advice, no empty promises, just a roadmap of navigating the system with a little more understanding and a little bit more help. As he finished explaining, I felt a little lost. I felt a little less lost. It wasn't much, but in the moment, it was enough to give me enough, I'm sorry, it was enough to give me a sense of control. I still had a long way to go, but now at least I knew how to start making moves. His words echoed in my mind as I settled into reality of being here, reminded me that while the walls of the system were closing in, there was still a way to fight back, even if it was just one call at a time. It was it was it was night when I got out. The kind of quiet, cool everything that made everything feel surreal. The sky was dark, with only faintest light from street lights cutting through the shadows after days of harsh fluorescent lights and constant noise of the jail. Stepping into the night air was like emerging from a cage into the vast. To the vast open world. The feeling was almost overwhelming, the sudden rush of freedom, but also the weight of everything that had led up to this moment. Walking out of jail, the concrete instilled behind me felt like a distant memory, though I knew it wasn't gone for good. The smell of fresh air, the cool breeze on my skin, and the emptiness of the streets at night made me realize how much I had taken for granted before all this time. I had only been in for a few days, but it felt like a lifetime. Well, y'all, I'm about to get going. Yeah, have a wonderful new year. Again, I pray that Allah found favor on my family, found favor upon my friends. You know, we pray that we are the winners. You know, we are not looking back. We are the head and not the tail. We are the lenders and not the borrower. So then to the next time, y'all, catch me in the morning. Let me bookmark this right there. And I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Inshallah. Peace. Let me go back here. I'm gonna end the video. Like that.